Are we good to go then
Yes.
with Dave?
It looks like Dave hasn't come back in yet.
Okay.
Oh, there he
So
is.
he-
We'll see if we can get his camera going.
So Dave was here.
Yeah, he's just struggling with his camera. So that's what he's trying to figure out.
So he was trying to just try by logging back in to see if that resolved it.
How are you, Heather?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I thought maybe you're gonna be the only one keeping me company in here today, but
I know I have a client at 2 today, so
that's okay.
yeah.
I think this is the only time I've been the only action committee member physically present. We don't want to
Yeah.
make a habit of this.
No, I want to try to make it. I just couldn't swing it today.
I'm not picking on you, and everybody else is on Zoom too. No, it's as much as I'd rather have people here in person, it's really good that Zoom is an option. Otherwise, so many meetings could get canceled.
True.
So you're up on the mountain, John?
Yeah, so I slept for about 4 hours. So I'm a little tired.
Oh.
I gotta go back to sleep after this.
Are you gonna go back to bed after this is over?
Yeah.
Huh.
I have to leave until 5:15, so I'll have a few hours.
How's the weather?
It was good. We got to see my coworker was watching the eruption live, so that was fun to see last night. It's the Kilauea started up again last night,
Oh, so you-
like 3 in the morning or something.
Oh.
It was really cool to see.
Wow.
Oh, I can see Dave's name, I think. Isn't that him on the right?
Yeah, he's still figuring his video
So
out.
could you, when you say, were you seeing it on a video feed or you just could see it up from Mauna Kea? You could see.
No, we were just watching the USGS feed.
Yeah.
We were able to see it driving down in the morning though. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
We get a nice view of the volcano from up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought you meant you could see it from where you were.
No. We have some cameras that can see out to it, but we were watching the actual USGS feed.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. But last time it erupted, we had a problem with some of the fog getting up to the summit, so we'll see if we have that issue today.
So we're waiting for the fifth action committee member to get logged on before we can allow to start the meeting. Hey, Charlie,
Yes.
there's a couple, we have 2 members of the public here, and one of the members of the public wants to talk about something that's not on the agenda. Maybe we could let him talk about it now before we officially convene. What do you think?
I think we might have sunshine issues though with 4 of us on the line, huh?
Well, I just thought if we weren't officially convened, then he could at least express his.
We certainly wouldn't be able to take a motion, but
Yeah,
I'll
no, I
defer
understand.
I'll defer to staff.
What do you guys think? Because this fellow wants to talk about something that's not on the agenda. So once we start the meeting, he couldn't, sunshine law doesn't allow him. So I just thought he could talk now while we're waiting.
Right.
I don't know what anybody thinks.
I'll defer to Mario.
What does Marty think?
Hey guys, yeah, I'm hearing you. I think Uncle Charlie's correct with sunshine, because then it might become a potential business item. If we can get the meetings, oh, David got it working out. So we can get the meeting started and then they can speak to it at the agenda item, about
Except they
but
don't want it, it's not the agenda item, that's what I'm saying. They want to talk about something that's not on the agenda.
yeah, they can, so that means they can, let me pull up your guys' agenda. On business item number, well, not business item, item number 5, proposed new business. So then that's where the community can come and chime in and talk about things that aren't directly on the agenda.
Okay,
So
okay,
so now we got
okay,
David online and now we have quorum. So now we can
okay.
get rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So, we'll call the meeting to order. It is now 12:08 PM, Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. Before we start, I wanted to just start with Olelo No'eau. I've used this one before. It's Opelu Ha'alili Ike Kai, and literally it's translated that the Opelu that make the sea ripple. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with Opelu. And the timing is good because they're beginning to spawn again. So you see the what we call a holili out on the ocean, and it looks like a bunch of ripples going by. And for me, and they constantly move. They don't like to stay in one place because they get caught and they get hunted. And the metaphor I always use is that while you can see the ripples on the top of the ocean, the real work is underneath what's going on with the school. So I use it sometimes as a metaphor for people who do a lot of the hard work, but they don't get seen. Okay, so we'll do a roll call. I'm going to have committee members introduce themselves and maybe where you're from. So I'm the chair, Charles Young. I live in Kealia in South Kona. We'll go over to Heather. And Heather, you can nominate someone after.
Okay. Heather Karate, I am living in Captain Cook. John?
John Pelletier. I live in Oklahoma in North Kona. We'll go to David.
Oh,
Mike, you're muted, Dave.
Sorry. David Huerta, I live in Kona.
And Nancy, did you go?
Nancy, I live in Keho.
Thank you all. I skipped something here. I think most of us are on Zoom, and so that there's some prerequisites to that. So those of us appearing on Zoom, we need to keep our cameras and our mics on all time. We also need to declare if there's anyone in the room beside ourselves. And so there's no one here with me in my house at this point in time. So I'll let the rest of you comment on that. Heather, if you start.
Yeah, I'm in a locked room, so my husband's at home in his home office.
Okay.
I'm here with my dog.
All right. He's probably okay.
Yeah, I'm at a shared office right now. There's no one with me. I don't expect anyone to come in, but there's a possibility someone might walk in. I can say something if that happens. So
Sure. Dave? Unmute Dave.
I'm in a closed office by myself.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so absences, we have Rosaline Molina and Charlotte Thompson are not present, but we do have quorum. Staff, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourselves, please. Miriam?
Hello, everybody. Marian Palmer with the Planning Department, Community Planning Section Supervisor. In person, we have Cavello Kalili, Jessica Lahip, and our newest member to the Long Range Division staff is Miss Chantel Miller, also over there. So want to welcome our newest member. And then also, yeah, that's all of us here today.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. And welcome, Shan. Housekeeping, cell phones, off or silent. If there's anyone who wishes to testify in person, I think there are some sign-up sheets. If you would please sign on the sheets, what agenda item you wish to speak on, and hand those over to staff. If there's anyone on Zoom that wants to testify, we will get to the Zoom testifiers after we take written oral testimony from those present. But when you get on, please state your name. And then for those of you who might testify in person, I think there are some cameras and microphones set up there so that we want to be able to see you and also hear you. So you need to get close to those. Next, we will go through the approval of the minutes. It's now 12:14, and the committee will now consider approving the draft minutes from February 11th, 2025 meeting. May I ask for a motion to approve the February 11th
I'll
meeting
make a
minutes?
motion to approve the minutes. This is Nancy from February 11th.
I'll second the motion. This is John.
Okay, John. Okay, so it's been motion and second. So motion by Nancy and seconded by John. So are there any comments, amendments to make? Okay, well, hearing none, then all in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, then the minutes are unanimously passed. So the next agenda item is really in form of testimony. Before we get into the business agenda, I always welcome anyone who wishes to testify on any agenda item, business item. They can do so now, or they can defer till when the agenda item comes up for discussion in front of us. So at this point, if anyone in person wishes to provide testimony on any of the agenda items, they can step forward and do now. If there's no one present, Nancy, I can't see everyone there, but if there's no one present that wishes.
Oh, I thought we gave you a paper to testify.
That, I don't know if they want to testify on an agenda item or not. Is anybody signing up to testify on something that's specifically on the agenda?
Yeah.
So we have infrastructure and development.
Is that on the
It
agenda?
is not on the agenda.
So does there look like there's anybody there on speaking on anything on the agenda?
No.
So there are 3 people that signed up, but it doesn't look like any of them have signed up to talk about anything on the agenda
Okay.
specifically.
So we'll probably have to leave that for when we have a discussion, maybe on next month's agenda. And the discussion is really going to have to be about whether we want to put it on the agenda or not. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to testify at this moment?
Yes, please. Hi, Charlie. It's
Hi,
Jan.
Janice.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Aloha, everybody. I first wanted to thank John and Nancy for staying on the Planning Commission meetings. I think that's a really great way to show what we're doing as a CDP, and I appreciate that outreach. I'm really looking to the first announcement because I can't stay at the meeting today. I have to be at work, but I think that the question that's in that communication, I don't know if that communication is really valuable, but I think the question should be how to increase the responsiveness of the administration and the council to the imperatives of the CDPs rather than how to increase the effectiveness of the ACs, although there's always room for improvement. But my experience, first of all, is that the ACs have continued to try to educate the need and reasons for complying with the CDPs. Second, they've helped put a brake on any on many non-compliant development proposals. And third, the CDPs have been clearly and also surreptitiously hamstrung by every administration, including by their planning directors and commissioners. I think that two important ways to increase the CDPs and the effectiveness of the action committees are, first, by more public outreach, which we've talked about 3,000 times. And I think that needs to be better supported by the administration some way. I don't know how to make that happen, but we've tried many different ways through the years, and that's been a hard thing. We've also had some good things happen there, like big public meetings. And the second thing is, I think that, and I've said this before, is I think that we need to strengthen the rules that increase compliance to the CDP with the CDPs. In the case of the Kona CDP, the amendments which change the shalls to mays and shoulds should be reversed ASAP. And I don't know, why we haven't really discussed that more in depth, or it hasn't been agendized, but I think it's been the elephant in the room in some ways for why we can't do more. And what I've also seen is that the CDPs are largely ignored, as I said, by the administration and especially the planning commissions as well. And you often see a lawyer coming in for a developer saying that it complies with the CDP, but it usually is a convoluted logic that doesn't really seem to fit with what we're really doing. So I don't know if I think that communication in front of the council, it could be effective, it could be helpful, but I think that everyone should keep in mind that there's a big picture here, and the CDPs, I think the action committees have been plodding along valiantly for, going on 20 years. And I think it's somehow we've just been, our power has been taken away in many ways that it shouldn't be. So, and
Sorry, Janice, are you?
what's that?
No, I was just wondering, were you done or you just taking a pause? I was wondering if you were.
Oh, you know what, Charlie? All of a sudden, I can't hear you guys. Hold on, if I did something, go ahead. I don't know if I touched something wrong. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You're referring to the communication 2025-03, I think the
council, I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me, but it was the first announcement at the end where the county council is going to look at how
right.
to increase the effectiveness of the ACs.
Right. Okay. Okay. I don't know if anyone has any questions for Janice or comments. Because we're going to come back to it anyway, I think.
Thanks, Charlie. I won't be able to be here, but I appreciate you guys, the discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Right.
I've got a question. I got a testimony and I misunderstood, I don't understand what this business is. And I feel that not making these business update on SB 869 SD1 and HB 686 HD1, there's no links here, you know what I mean? So we can read what the meeting is about. And this isn't I've seen this on many other, I don't know who writes these. So I'd like to put in, a serious, community complaint that we should be able to understand what the meeting's about, and in my head, this is the Kona, development meeting, right, council, right? I'm saying that properly. I'm still learning all this stuff, so please bear with my ignorance. But I would like to speak on, the development, and I don't really know what, update this park. There's no description, and there should be a link to the description if you don't have the room to put it in the plan. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I sent you an email asking you guys for the map of the Big Island so we can see all of the already approved developments. And so in my head, Kona Development was going to be able to provide that. I've gone to Hawaii Planning for it. I've talked to County Council for it. Nobody's providing this map when County Council and Hawaii Planning continuously approve more and more developments, when our resources today are overtaxed. You know, we have power outages in my place, my home neighborhood, 3 power outages in 2 weeks. Okay, then the Palisades had power outages. Captain Cook had power. So we have resource issues. We have water restriction signs. You know, we have infrastructure issues. But yet, County Council and Hawaii Planning continuously approve huge developments. Just last week, 2 weeks ago, Kohala, I think it's 400 new homes. You know, when we have tons of development that haven't even started construction yet. So I would like to know, can somebody please email me a map? Because when you create something, you build a house, you have a map. You know, there's a map so everyone can see what's going to happen. What's the creation? What are they creating? What is Hawaii Planning and County Council creating on the Big Island? Because they right now, and I've asked them, I have a petition that has 591 signatures right now, telling, stop approving development and start focusing on resources and infrastructure. That needs to change. It needs to turn to for the safety of everybody who already lives here, and now all of the development that hasn't even started yet, those people as well. If we are having issues having water for the residents today, well, there are hundreds, if not thousands of homes coming. Hopefully that the locals can afford them, but they're coming. You know, I see signs, and I also see notice of application signs. So more construction is going to be asked to be approved. And if County Council and Hawaii Planning are on this roll to approve everything, I want to see the map of the Big Island. We have the right to see how they're creating this island, you know, and we have the right for them to start looking at what's safe. The resources and infrastructure. I think I've sent you guys my petition. It says, help Big Island resources and infrastructure stay safe for all who live and visit here. This is over 20 different news articles that I found. So it's not my words, 20 different news articles talking about the resources and infrastructure on the Big Island and how it's overtaxed today. We need to start focusing on that. And please, we need to start, you know, giving us, you know, the information.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I didn't hear you state your name. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
And can you
Rebecca
please
Melendez.
summarize too, please?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca Melendez. My website is bigislandsupport.com. My summary is that I would like to have an email, or even if you call me and say the map is ready, some kind of a link to the Big Island that shows all of the developments that have been approved for the future, so we understand what's happening. And I like everybody's focus to start turning to resource and infrastructure instead of developments that are approving developments. You know what I'm saying? That's the issue here. Our safety, when I have to three times power outages in 2 weeks, okay? And I go to a meeting to oppose development, giving my petition 591 signatures saying stop development and start focusing on resources and infrastructure, okay? And now I've been to all of the meetings, Hawaii Planning, County Council, and you guys. I'm asking for your help because they're not listening. Hawaii Planning, County Council, they're not listening. They keep approving even more. I'd like to see the map that they use to justify their developments, their development approvals. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I also say something?
Yes.
Could I? My name is Priscilla Bosque, and I have one of the properties that are being rezoned for recreation in Kailua on Aloha.
Can you, excuse me.
I just recently got the general plan and read it, and I can't understand any of it. It's all abbreviations and really vague statements. And it's not very user-friendly. And I just don't think it's right that we can't fully understand what the general plan is really about and who it's affecting, and using language that is more understandable for the layperson. I mean, I like to think that I am intelligent, and I still can't get it. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, let's continue with the business items, unless there's any questions. So we'll just move on to business item number 1. And this is the Kealakekee Regional Park update. So any updates from any of the action committee members? I think we agreed to keep this one alive because we wanted to continue making sure that we agendize a discussion. So John, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I have a couple things.
Right, you sent us a whole bunch of stuff too as well. Huh?
Yeah. So I found the 2 executive orders that originally set aside the land. One originally for a golf course back in the 90s. Had to go to the archive to find it, but we did find it, so that's great. And the people at the archive were really helpful. They found out the other one, the newer one, was actually with the DLNR, and they reached out to the DLNR, and then I emailed them, and they emailed me back, and so that's the second one. Now the point of this, the point of getting these was that we were trying to figure out where the requirement, or if there is a requirement for it to be hooked up to the wastewater treatment plant is, and I didn't find anything in there. I mean, I sent them to all so you can read it, maybe try to interpret it, but I didn't see anything in there that specifically said that. I think the more exciting update, which Cavello sent us out the CIP draft budget, and listed in there as priority 3 in the Parks Department is the Kalagahey Regional Park. And they're setting aside they would like to get a pretty decent amount of money to develop the park. And that was really exciting to me. I didn't realize this, but Director Hanma was also Parks Director whenever Billy Kanoy was mayor. And him and James Komata, who's a parks planner, both seem like they are invested in maybe developing this park. So that was really exciting to see in the budget. I think maybe next meeting, we'll talk more about the budget in depth, but I think it'd be worth us supporting this at council, saying we support the allocation of money for this park in the budget. So that was really exciting. That was the kind of more exciting one. The executive orders, like I said, you could read through it. I think I'd like to try to reach out to the planner, James Komata, and maybe see what his idea for water resources for the park is, and we can kind of get the whole story on that from him. And support this project going forward if everything seems straightforward. So that's my update.
Yeah, well, thanks, John, for the research. I think it was very helpful. And those were my recollections too about the golf course. And I think that was actually in when Lorraine was mayor. Just by coincidence, our organization, Kupa Friends of Ho'okana Beach Park, had a meeting with Parks Director Hanma a couple of weeks ago. So I took the opportunity. We were talking about our organization, but I took him on the side afterwards and kind of prodded him a little bit about it. And what he said to me was, as far as he knew, it's stuck in environmental department because they need an EA. And according to the agreement, they're supposed to deliver R1 water to the park. And they can't deliver it. The county cannot deliver it, R1 park water to the park, because one, they don't have the fresh water available, were it to come from wells, and they haven't converted the RS1 wastewater treatment plant, which was how that was supposed to work. because they were, I think, originally going to put the wastewater in RS2 form back on a golf course. So he's stuck in, he says they're stuck in environmental department. So I'm wondering whether we might not invite him again. We can talk about that on the agenda item, but that was just something that happened coincidentally. I don't know if any other committee members have any?
Charlie,
Yes, go ahead.
I was reading this documents that John submitted, and I also was looking at the preliminary budget, and there's nothing in any of those documents to say anything about an R1 requirement. And the other thing is the preliminary budget says the EA is completed. So I don't think we're getting, and also if they're putting money in the proposed budget for the beginning of the development of the park, it seems like they must have overcome some of these hurdles. So I think there's still a lot of ambiguity, but the fact that they put money for not just park planning, but for actual development of the park seems to imply that they've overcome some of these issues.
Yeah, I think Director Hanlon said the EA is completed. It's just not approved.
Oh.
It's stuck in the environmental department is I think the way he characterized it. Now we may have to talk to the folks there, or at least that was my understanding. So if we want to pursue this maybe further and actually get a little bit more clarity, I think we can maybe direct another letter of invite, or perhaps direct a letter of questions. Any other comments from the committee members? I see Janice has her hand up, that's why. So if not from the committee, I'm gonna ask, go ahead, Janice.
I'm curious about the funding for it. Does any of it have to do with federal funding? Also, even the wastewater treatment issue could change maybe for the worse, but I'm curious about the funding, because if it's dependent upon federal funding, things might change. So I'm sure everyone's aware of that, but
I mean, maybe staff can acknowledge this, but this is what I think we're looking at is specifically the county budget that they're looking for money.
the whole thing. Oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
this specific budget we're looking at is county
Oh.
specific.
Okay, great. Thanks, John.
Okay. Does anybody else have an update or any comments on the regional park?
Well, I think probably between now and the next meeting, more information will come to light since this item is in the budget.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Just a little piece. As you look through the CIP document, just for people that are unfamiliar, my understanding is that in the multiple tables that are in this budget, they do know where the money would be coming from. So if it's a bond, or if it's, general fund, or if they're expecting to get dollars from the state or the feds. So that can be, as you look through the projects, you can kind of see that breakdown also.
thank you, Marion.
I just wanted to add, and years ago, I did a preliminary sort of an overview of Parks and Rec, because it didn't seem like we were getting the parks in Kona compared to the parks in Hilo, and there was a big disparity between the amount of parks in Hilo compared to the parks in Kona. So if they're finally going to get around to building this public park, that would be great, because it's long overdue. It's it was adopted in our plan in 2008, and it had already been planned. Well, the land came from the state in 1991 initially. So this is something that's years and years overdue. And, people that, bring up the fact that, we're deficient in infrastructure in Kona. This is an example that finally, maybe they're going to get around to providing Kona with something that we've been waiting for years.
Yeah. If no one else is going to have any comments, or if did we want to entertain a motion of any sort for action? If not, I'm going to close the item. Okay, so we'll close business item number 1, and it's now 12:37, and we'll go on to business item number 2, which is the Leeward Planning Commission testimony update. I think Vice Chair Patricio, you were going to give us an update, and John, I believe.
I went and sat in John and I testified at the first general plan review at the Planning Commission, and then provided our testimony on the Hokulea redesignation and also on the TOD issue. And then I sat in on the following Planning Commission where we're still talking about the general plan, and the planning director said officially that he's recommending that the Hokulea designation be retained as ag and not be pursued as to upzone as rural. So that was good news, that got verified, but he's just making a recommendation, so it's still going to go to council. So I think that we should still follow up when the general plan finally gets to the planning committee, and I think we should present our testimony again. Just because the planning director is recommending it to the county council doesn't mean that they're going to approve it. So I think we need to be there and repeat ourselves. That's my suggestion, that we be. And the other thing about the TOD testimony is when we provided the TOD testimony to the Leeward Planning Commission, it was a copy of what we had presented to the planning department, and and it was referring to the previous draft of the general plan, so it was referring to the inaccurate page numbers. And so I think we need to, before we submit it to the county council, we need to update it so that it reflects the accurate text in the current draft. And also, I think it needs a little more explanation, because when we submitted the testimony on the TOD to the planning department, we assumed, of course, they all know what TODs are, but I don't think the Leeward Planning Commission members or even the county council members necessarily know what TODs are. So I think when we submit the testimony to the planning committee at the county council level, it should have a little bit more description of what TODs are and more of the sales pitch of why we think, it's something they should consider.
Can I testify on that as well, please?
Hang on, I'd like to hear from the other committee members first before, if there's any. John, you have any comments?
No, I nothing really to add to Nancy's. I think looking forward to when this gets to the planning committee of the council and having everything in order to testify to them, I think would be a good idea.
Right. Heather or Dave?
I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
Okay, I had a question though. Since you attended the meeting, is the Leeward Planning Commission getting some of the same comments that like we've just heard about how difficult the general plan is and how we need to catch up, and are they getting the same sensitivities there so that we understand that some of that is getting into the right hands too, because they make the decisions and we do some advisements, although we have nudged them along, I think, on some of the things that are a great concern to us that don't necessarily line up with the CDP. But we can't. The general public has to represent themselves too as much as possible themselves. So I was just wondering if that was going on. And you're nodding your head yes, so I guess that answers my question. Yeah. I thought I saw Janice's hand up, but she's left, look like. So
to answer your question, a lot of people were at both Leeward Planning Commission meetings to share their concerns about the general plan.
Right. Okay. Well, then that's reassuring, I think, for us. Right. Is there any other comments on that? I see someone raising their hand out in the back.
Rebecca Melendez.
Excuse me?
I'm Rebecca Melendez.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the general plan as well. And yeah, it seems like Like they say this is the final draft. And at first I want to say thank you for hearing. I can feel that you guys are listening, you know, and I really appreciate that. So if like you were talking about the TOD, if this is the final draft, nobody should have any questions on what a TOD is. You know what I'm saying? Like this general plan is so vague. To me, it shows signs of corruption because of being so vague. You know, any citizen should be able to read it and fully understand it without having to look on the internet. Okay, so I want to let you know that I do have a petition on BigIslandSupport.com under my general plan testimony page. I've spent 2 days researching what the general plan was saying. I have put in links to help other people know what it is and myself, and use those links in my testimony for the general plan. And I also made a petition after I read it, and it says, we oppose the general plan, and I have 248 signatures on this petition as of just a couple of weeks. You know, so the community in my mind, you know, they work a lot. They can't be to a lot of the meetings because it's during work times. So that's why I created a petition to help, you know, people have an easier time and to start going, hey guys, wake up, start looking at this. You know, this is now a petition opposing it. And I have a page that describes it. I spent all day, a few days researching their smart grid and broadband development. And so the smart grid and broadband, they don't explain it, okay? 2 days I researched it, okay? My stepdad now has smart grid in California. So anyways, it's going to increase electrical bills, okay? It's known. I have at least 4 different websites showing that smart meters have increased electrical bills by double or triple. Yes.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. You know, we're talking about the Leeward Planning Commission. That's what's on the agenda. And we honestly, we have heard some of this discussion come before us, and we've always encouraged people to make sure that the Leeward Planning Commission is also hearing the same arguments or same concerns, because they are the decision makers, the final decision makers and recommenders before they go to the council. We've reviewed the general plan and made some comments on that as the action committee as well. But they really need to hear it from the public. So
Thank you. I've sent
yeah,
many
we're not.
emails.
Yeah, so we're not going to be discussing the general plan, I think, on this agenda. However, we can talk about maybe placing it on the agenda for our next meeting. But you know, I don't know if you've gone before the Leeward Planning Commission. I'm
Yes,
hoping
I have
you have.
several times.
Okay, and so they're aware of the same things then, I'm guessing.
Okay,
Charlie,
Yes.
thank you.
Go ahead.
I checked and the Leeward Planning Commission has made their final recommendation. So it's out of their hands now and it's going to be moved up to the planning committee. So
Right.
the next time it shows up in an official agenda in terms of decision makers will be when it moves to the county council, to the committee on planning.
Right.
And I don't know
right.
if Miriam has any idea when that's going to be. I don't.
I don't have an updated date right now.
Okay,
Okay.
then yeah.
But I did ask specifically if the Leeward Planning Commission made their final recommendations, and they said that they had.
Yeah, because the last I had heard there was still one more session, but
There
it's done.
isn't.
Okay.
Now
All
it's
right.
wrapped up at Leeward, and then these are the final. Today they're at Windward, and depending today or tomorrow will be those final meetings for them, depending on what the commission decides.
Right. Right. Okay, so we should be looking for it on the county agenda, on the council agenda.
On the county council agenda, yeah, would
Yeah.
be the
How
next
many
step.
readings do they have?
I don't know. They don't have a limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that would be the next sort of the next procedural or point in the process that the public's comments can still make differences.
Correct.
There was someone's hand up. Was it Cindy or somebody's hand up? I guess it went down. Okay. Are there any other? are there any other comments on, hello? Cindy, are you? I thought I saw your hand up, so I'm just coming back. Did you have a comment on the agenda item?
No, you answered my question. It goes on the county council committee,
Yeah,
on the next level. That's
right.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you there then.
Yes.
Okay, good. All righty. Okay, are there any other comments on the item number 2, business item number 2? If not, we'll close that and we'll move on to business item number 3. It's 12:48, and this is the just discussion on state legislature testimony, because we did submit our own sort of recommendation with regards to some action that we wanted the legislator to take. And so I'll just open that up if anyone has any comments. Our bill is still moving through, correct, Nancy? It's been approved by every committee that it's been heard. I don't know if it's when it's scheduled again. I
I
was
don't
kind of.
think, no one knows what you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nancy. The bill that the bill on neighborhood boards.
Oh, that's not that. You're on a different agenda item. Number 3 is a general question of if there's any legislation on the state level that we want to entertain getting involved with.
Okay, I thought that was relevant to the
Number
CDP.
4 is the neighborhood board one.
Okay.
Yeah, SB 869 is the one you're talking about, Charlie.
Yeah,
That's number
okay.
4.
All righty. Okay. Well, yeah, so I think we left this open because there are a number of other bills as well floating through that have to do with water. SD 1602, they're wanting to drill wells, monitoring wells, and this is in the realm of the seaworm, actually, and I think it's going to be held. There's going to be a hearing held on it. I'm not quite sure when, but it's still going through, and that's to drill monitoring wells into the Keauhou regional, um, uh, the Keauhou aquifer, the region, to monitor fresh water going out into the ocean, the quality, and kind of whether the volumes are being affected. I think there's another bill. We're going to talk about that one later, though. So that was the only one I think I wanted to bring up. There's well, let me go back to a couple others that I think are interest to us because it has to do really with resource management, but it has to do with permitting on commercial boating licenses and fishing permits, which they're resource based, but I didn't at this point I don't have an update on those. So is there anyone else following bills? Go ahead, Nancy.
So we briefly talked about it with the chair meeting, that the legislation that's going through to monitor the Keauhou aquifer, whether it's being drilled at a sustainable yield or whether, and that's one bill. And then the other bill has to do with monitoring water use in relation to prioritizing affordable housing.
Affordable housing, correct.
And if we want to take a position on it, we'll have to do it today. Otherwise, we'll miss the window because it's already, both those bills have already been passed through the Senate, and they've been passed over to the House, and so they'll be up for committee vote on the House, and it'll all be done in a month.
Oh, so, it actually looks like 867 was killed today.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, the committee on the WAL committee, I don't know if that's water and land or
water and
I
land.
can't remember. They deferred it today. So that one
Oh,
might be that one
so
might be
the
done.
867 relating to affordable housing was killed?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
somehow I thought I heard it was going to be heard on Friday, but I may be
Yeah, I'm just looking at it today on the
okay. All
update.
right.
Yeah, it was heard today, and then they deferred it.
So the other bill was
So that
the
one's moot.
1602 regarding the aquifer monitoring, the Kehoe aquifer.
Right.
And that was to monitor it and report back, to give reports on the sustainable yield and whether they're taking too much out or not. And I don't know whether,
Yeah.
we should be supporting that or not. It seems like it seems like good resource management to be monitoring how much water we're taking out.
Well, I think all of that goes to the hierarchy of the uses too, which we've had concerns about. And I think the reason why we supported the affordable housing bill or the water for prioritizing affordable housing was because that's one of the priorities we all agreed was really important for us. And without the water, it's not going to happen. So the monitoring, I think, while it's something that the state is doing uh, to protect resources, uh, you wouldn't necessarily consider it a county issue, but water itself is an issue for us. So I think that's something we should support. That because the Seaworm and the county both agree that they don't have enough monitoring wells, not just to monitor the aquifer itself in terms of volumes, but also in terms of the quality that's getting back out into the ocean. So it's duplicate. So I think we probably should.
So that bill that appropriates funds to the DLNR to install 2 monitoring wells in the Kehoe aquifer, that seems like it's pretty important for the Kona district because the urban district for Kona is right on top of the Kehoe aquifer.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it definitely applies to things we should be concerned about. So,
Yeah, Heather just left the room, so we're not in quorum right now. So we can pick. Let's take a recess until she gets back. Here she is. Okay. We just recessed while you were out, Heather. It's so hard to keep track of all the bills that conceivably would affect us, and it's been mind-blowing. I think we should be better prepared the committees should be better prepared next time around because there's just so much stuff that's flowing through. But
well,
yeah,
this
so
particular bill seems pretty black and white to me, and in terms of the DLNR installing 2 monitoring wells,
right.
it doesn't seem very ambiguous as to the goal and how it would be implemented. So I think it's something we should support, and I don't think it can wait a month because I think it'll be a done deal either way. And I think it would be appropriate for us representing the Kona Community Plan and managing our resources to support this bill.
Yeah.
Charlie, could I make a comment really quick? I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
having techno difficulties here. I strongly support what Nancy is saying, and I hope that you guys get on board with this. I think this is one of the major issues of the island and probably the state and probably the nation. But I think that, this has just been going back and forth and round about our water resources, and there's just no reason why the state shouldn't be acting on that. And I fully support you guys, putting it out there for the public. And I so appreciate this part of the conversation. Thanks.
Yeah. Can we make a move or a motion then to show our support for the bill? And that would probably take the form of a written testimony?
As far as I'm concerned, I'd make a motion that we should support the bill to, for the DLNR to, install water monitoring wells for the Cahoe Aquifer. And I think we should submit testimonies supporting that goal.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Just for discussion purposes, we'll write the letter. Nancy, yourself and I will draft, or
Yeah, I can work with you to come up with some, it doesn't have to be very complicated testimony to support this.
it's a fairly straightforward bill. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and thank you both for bringing it to our attention. Like Nancy said, I think this is pretty black and white, and it really, since it's the Cahoe Aquifer, especially, I think
Yeah,
this is really important for us. So,
yeah, it's very specific. If there's
Yeah,
no
well,
other,
we've been going round and round and round about, you know, how are we gonna keep track of our water resources, and lawsuits are being filed, and, but on the other hand, we're saying, well, you know, we should direct growth to the Kona urban core without really knowing what our resources are. So this is a really good first step to start, you know, having a black and white means of monitoring our water use specifically for this district. So I'm in strong support of sending testimony.
yeah. So. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll just call for the vote. If all in favor of supporting, writing supporting testimony on, is it SB 1602? Indicate by saying aye.
I
I
Hi.
Okay. Opposed? Nay? Okay, hearing none, then we'll work on that. Nancy, we got to circle back, I guess, after the call.
Yeah, things are moving pretty fast, like this other bill regarding affordable housing was killed today, and so things are moving really fast.
Yeah, yeah, all right, we can talk about that later, but all right, is there anything else under legislature testimony? If not, we'll close that item and we'll open the last item 4, which is the update on SB 869 and HB 686.
I'll give a brief update. Of course, this bill, as you know, and for those that don't know, this bill has to do with the state sunshine law, and
Right.
this committee operates under the same regulations that the county council does, in that we're only supposed to talk about items on the agenda, and if we lose quorum, we have to stop talking. And it's, we don't approve budgets and we don't have any authority to pass laws. So to be that restrictive to, you know, discourage people from the public from coming in this way, you know, doesn't seem practical to our purpose of wanting to include the public, to just, like, these guys walking in the door and they want to talk. And right now, technically, we're not supposed to let you talk because you're not on the agenda. But this bill would open it up. And so the bill got through 3 votes on the Senate, but on the House side, the House got through 1 committee, and then the second Finance Committee, and I don't even know why it was at the Finance Committee. The chair of the Finance Committee chose not to hear it, so it killed it. So it's no longer alive on the House side, but I mean, as a House bill, but the Senate bill, the companion side, to allow us to have more freedom to operate and take public testimony and have conversations, you know, without a quorum. It's still alive on the Senate side, and it got 3 votes, and it was just passed over last Thursday to the House side. So it's starting that process. So it's being referred to the House Judicial and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. And on Thursday, it was also referred back to the Finance Committee, which I wasn't that thrilled to see because they killed it in the companion bill. But what we all noticed yesterday is it was re-referred, and so it's no longer being referred to the Finance Committee. So the implication is that it only has to be heard by the Judicial and Hawaiian Affairs Committee that's chaired by David Tarnas. So that was really good news, and all of us sort of noticed it at the same time. So it hasn't been scheduled for a hearing yet, but that's where it's at right now, if I explained that clearly. So everybody's been working really hard to support this, because I think that the restraints we've had to operate under all these years hasn't been fair for a committee like this. So if we can get this bill passed, it would be a lot better for us to be able to function as a, representing this plan, and also helping to encourage community input. It's not very important bill to the whole state. It's mostly just important to this island. And so the fact that we're getting enough people to submit testimony in favor of it and it's still alive says a lot for the hard work of a lot of people, not just the Kona plan, but also South Kohala CDP and the Ka'u CDP, and different people around the island submitting testimony in support of this.
What's the bill's name?
Yeah, I wanted to congratulate Nancy and John for getting, soliciting some of the other action committees to, because it's new, at least for this island. Many people don't understand, even myself, when we started it, it was Nancy who kind of figured it out on how to get this drafted, first of all. And then, solicit, I think, some of our representatives in the legislature to introduce. And then I think we both encouraged Rep. Tarnas to hear it as well and not shut it down. So, having gone this far, I'm a little optimistic. I don't know why finance would shut it down, but or not hear it. Some of the feedback I get is that there are so many bills that are trying to get through, like over 3,000, that if it doesn't pop, in the mind of the committee chair, they just don't hear it because they feel there's more important things to be done. And this kind of like begs the question of how much effort we're going to be able to put into these efforts, and how much we have remaining, I guess, in the tanks to again continue our networking with some of the other committees and commissions that we have, and I think we're only going to find out if we do it, so we're doing it, and I've already fallen behind on many of the efforts, so my apologies for that, but yeah. So Nancy, we can all go online and see where the bill is in its progress. You just for those of you who don't know how to, or haven't gone online yet, you can just go onto the legislative hawaii.gov, go over the legislator. You can create a password so you can get in, and then it'll open you up to Google all the bills or that we're interested in. And then you can find out for yourselves when they're scheduled, and you can read the comments for and against. So it's quite informative if you do, but it does take time. So
it was really interesting to me to, all the scrutiny on the Sunshine Law and the restrictions we've had to operate on, and having to shut our meeting down if we don't have quorum. And then on the other hand, the Finance Committee on the state level, they had hundreds and hundreds of bills referred to them. And I decided after they were done, before they, with the hearing bills, they probably only heard half the bills that were referred to them. And so the chair, they ran out of time to hear bills. So in that case, none of those bills had an opportunity for the public to provide any input on. That seems like a terrible system where all these bills get referred to these committees on the state level and hundreds of them never get any hearing at all. There's something wrong with that process.
right. And I don't know that this is necessarily a fair process in terms of how some people make their decisions, but they just look at how many yays, how many people support and how many people are against, and they just count the yeses and the nos, and they come up with a decision. And again, I don't know how fair that is to say or stereotype everyone like that, but this is some of the feedback that one gets when one goes over the legislature. So I think we should endeavor to keep ourselves in touch with those. How much energy we have, I think we just have to go ahead and proceed. So those are my thoughts. So Nancy, you think we should provide any more supportive testimony from
Oh,
us?
definitely. I'll stay on
Yeah.
top of when the bill gets, because it'll be
Right.
referred to David Tarnas's committee, and I think we definitely need to send testimony when it comes up for hearing and to encourage his committee to continue supporting the companion bill.
Yeah. Okay. So um
We don't need to vote on anything.
I don't think so because we've already done so. All right. Is there any other comments on this agenda item?
I've got a question. Can we, the public, also send testimony on
Yes.
this?
Absolutely.
How do we do that?
After the meeting, if you're still here, let me give you the information, and then I'll get your information. I'll send you all the
Okay.
information. Because I've got to, trying to encourage people to send supportive testimony. So
Awesome.
after we shut this meeting down, I'll get your information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. If there's no other discussion or motion, I'll close this item 4, which is the last on the business items. So we can get on now to talking about next month's agenda. And before I forget, I attended a punk meeting yesterday and stayed for the full version, which was ironically longer than ours. But they had a lot of discussion on punk. Are members of the committee familiar with punk?
Maybe you should tell people what it is.
Okay, so I forget what the acronym stands for, but basically it's for open space. And what the county has done is carved out a certain percentage of tax funds in reserve. So they have a bucket of money. And what they are able to do with that money is to purchase lands that people have nominated for preservation. And so there's quite a few already being preserved in Ka'u, South Kohala, North Kohala. But Kona has not seen a lot of that for one reason or the other. So in the punk meeting yesterday, there were 2 items, one item for Kona, one for South Kohala, one for Puna, and 2 for Puna, Kumukahi and Pohoiki, I think they were, or not Pohoiki, Hawaiian Beaches. Anyway, once the county purchases it, they do it through I think primarily through a conservation easement, right? And then they try to fund monies then to take care of the properties as well. And in the first when Punk first came out, it was kind of my impression that what they were doing was just preserving land and open space. But the discussion yesterday really got into historical, cultural values and a whole bunch of other things that just struck a bell with me. So I wanted to suggest maybe that maybe members, if they have time, can go to the Pong meetings. So they're in the process now of reviewing. I think there were 7 applications, and they're going to have money to approve certain ones. And sometime in July, they're going to be making those recommendations. Unfortunately, they only meet every other month. So that was something that I think, well, as we feel, is difficult to do. But they did a really good job, I think, yesterday on it. So I just wanted to suggest maybe we consider putting them on an agenda so that we can have either someone represented from the PONC committee or commission, sort of give us a presentation on what they're all about, and maybe even cover some of the interesting suggestions that they have. Or I don't think they can specifically necessarily talk about each of the items that they are approving, but they could probably talk about the context of what they approve. So I just wanted to bring that up as maybe a possible agenda item. And I don't know if we've had discussions today on the general plan. If it's going to council already, I don't know that there's much more we can do as a open forum for discussion, because it's gonna, other than provide comment to the council as we did to the Leeward Planning Commission. But I'll leave that open. Are there any other suggestions that we should be considering for agenda at this time?
Janice has her hand up.
I see. I was going to get to the committee members first. Sorry, Janice.
I was just going to do a clarification, just addition. When you were talking about what the PONC fund does,
Yeah.
one clarification I wanted to make for members of the public who might not know is that no lands are ever acquired without the agreement of the seller. There's always a willing seller. And I just think that needs to be clarified, because I've been hearing a lot of things that sound like people feel that there are takings happening in that. And I just want the people in the public to know that's not true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing too, Janice, is that you can nominate a land or for preservation to PONC
Yes.
without having the permission to sell those people to sell.
Yes, and yet at the end, it won't
It never happens unless it's sold. Yeah.
Just want the people know it's the willing seller.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, because I think maybe people think it's a eminent domain issue.
Exactly.
Right. Thanks.
I've got a comment, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca Melendez. So I've been at the general plan meetings, and with regards to land, the general plan is sending out rezoning letters, land use titles. I have met with those people in person. I don't have any evidence. I'm trying to get evidence so I can share it with other people of this, that is happening. And yeah, so I just want to make sure that that's known. It is in the general plan. The general plan is changing, is fully rezoning the whole island. And many people's personal properties who I've personally spoken to are receiving letters that their land is being changed to recreation. Right. Yes. So I don't know. Okay. So okay. So Patricia right here. Priscilla. I'm sorry. Priscilla. She's got a letter. We're gonna do a video on it. I prayed to God to give me somebody with a personal written letter that they received from the county so I can prove it. And lo and behold, I meet this beautiful woman who has this letter, and I'm gonna be sharing it. So this is happening. This is happening to personal properties. And I know people don't want to believe it. I posted about it, and people tell me that I'm not true, but then I'm like, well, then I can't prove it because I don't have a letter. But now I got a letter. So I'm going to be making a video about it tomorrow. I'm going to be also researching a lot more about the rezoning. But in the general plan, not only like with Hokulea, they were changing agricultural to rural, okay? With personal properties. They're changing personal properties to recreation. This is truth. So I just want to make sure that that's known to everybody. It's horrific, actually, because these are people's personal properties that if they get changed to recreation, they're not going to be able to, their land value is going to go down. They won't be able to give it to their family. They won't be able to sell it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a huge thing. So this is truth. This is happening. And I'll be definitely making it, showing the proof of it tomorrow on my bigislandsupport.com. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. and committee members, anything on the agenda that you want to suggest?
I
based
have
on
a couple
what's
things.
presented? Yeah.
One is just to put the park back on there, to talk about it again.
Yep.
And then the other thing I think would be good would be, Cavello sent out the budget draft. I think it'd be good to like really look through it, for the committee to really look through it and maybe see things that affect the CDP, or the Kona area that are in the CDP, and we can look at that and kind of, I don't know, support it, because it's going to go to council and we can support
Yeah.
things in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I agree. Any other suggestions? Janice, your hand up? I know she didn't take it down, but any committee members, anyone?
Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I did want to ask again if the committee would consider revisiting the amendments that were made to the Kona CDP that did weaken it. And I know that would be a big effort and it would take legal, counsel, et cetera, but I still, I'm going to be a squeaky wheel about that. Thanks.
Janice, you have any specific amendment in mind? So we can bring focus?
I don't have it right now. I think Nancy she probably has a better memory and understanding of it than I did at any time. But from my recollection, well, one of the things was it changed shalls to shoulds and may on several issues. And I think one of them was related to TODs, Nancy, if I'm not wrong. There were just some parts of the plan that became less able we were less able to enforce the ideas because they were May, and I thought TOD was one of the things, but there's several issues, and I'll look it up for sure, Charlie, if you want me to. I was going to actually call Nancy and bug her later about the TOD issue at planning, because I had missed that meeting. But yeah, there's several things. I just think it took the teeth out of it. I know that there was some legal reasons why Michael Matsukawa had worked on, the Missler case and all that. It was all very convoluted and beyond my pay grade. But I know there were some things that just I think should have been looked at. And I know when we did the vote back then, there was a lot of hesitation about approving those amendments. And I know I certainly, I felt a little bit lost about it. And then when we realized later what it, how it emasculated the plan, I had a lot of regrets about that. So anyway, because I just keep going on saying that that the plan is an ordinance, and it is. And that's the most important thing about it, and why it's not the same as the K to K plan, the old, those plans. It's, but some of the teeth are missing. So.
Right. I think one of the things I think it's worth discussion on the agenda. I want to make sure we focus in though on
Yes.
on certain things, and not just that it's not the best document, so that we can kind of get it. Yeah.
Maybe even having, it might be, I don't know how, in the past we've gone through the document, by items to discuss the points. Maybe at this point, I'm not the person to decide, that's for sure. There might be something in there that I would, I could miss something, or I might bring something that's less relevant.
Is there an updated version of the once the wording got changed?
Nancy, do you know?
Charlie, it's has hundreds of things.
Yeah.
The 2008 CDP was amended in 2019.
That's correct.
And dozens of shells were changed to shoulds. And that was a result of the Mishler lawsuit. And the council was advised that it was in the best interest of the county and the plan to make these amendments. So it's a major thing. And
Right.
And so we would need to have some legal advice. I talked to Roy Takimoto recently about it, and he said that there was supposed to be more follow-up, but he didn't explain to me what that was, and I've been trying to talk to him more about it. So I don't have enough information right now, but it would be a major undertaking.
Right. Would it be worth maybe inviting Roy on to?
I don't know if he'd be willing to. I want to find out from him what he was referring to as far as, he said that he thought that the next step should have been taken regarding this. And I didn't know what he was referring to. And I emailed him back and I said, would you explain this more to me? And I haven't had a chance to talk to him again about it. So I think we need to do more research.
Well, I don't think we're the researchers. I just, that's, beyond probably our capabilities. And so if we do move, to revisit, then I think we should do so under some legal guidance. Or,
Well,
better.
that's what the research would be. We have to understand the legalities of it more.
That's right. Yeah.
And what points are the most important too, Charlie? I mean, obviously we're not going to go through, however many dozens there are, but there are some things that seem to be holding us up a bit. But yeah, once again, legal points.
Ultimately, any changes would have to go to the planning committee and the county council and be approved. It isn't anything
Right.
we have the authority to do.
No. Okay. Shall we put it on the agenda for discussion?
I'm not ready to, because I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. Or just a notion to discuss it?
I want to chime in a little bit here just to say generally for the other ACs, updating their CDPs have come up and going through that amendment process. And so what I've been doing with them is whoever is interested in carrying and spearheading that responsibility, I've been setting up like sessions with them and we kind of reoccurring meetings to check in on the different pieces, because at every level this is a pretty large undertaking. But even considering the 2019 version of the CDP is online, and that's the one that's posted everywhere with those changes after Missler. But it can be piecemealed, any amendment, right? We don't need to do a comprehensive thing.
Right.
And so that's what I had spoken about with South Kohala. Like there's key areas that they were interested that they felt were missing, and it was time. So it can be narrow focused and it can be any version. But like Nancy mentioned, this would have to go through Planning Commission. It would have to go through Council. It is ordinance. But I would recommend that if there is interest for the committee members, that we talk about who those people might be, and we can start those conversations, and obviously a part of that would be the historical context, with if we could get Roy, and we could just have some conversations out of the offline. If you guys are interested, this is something that planning can support putting together or facilitating or whatnot, but also it's kind of to you guys if you're willing to go through that. And it doesn't need to be like a motion that's voted on, that as long as we're doing it, 2 or under members, 1 or 2 members only, then we can kind of work and see what we can do on the side, and then bring something more tangible to the committee as a whole. Even if it's just like a game plan of a chapter or a page number or a paragraph that we want changed.
You mean like a subcommittee, Marion?
So the permitted interaction group, we could do that. That could also be a something, but then we will have to do the whole
Public.
we'll have to do a report. We'll be limited on how many updates we can give. Then we'll be restricted to only 3 meetings. The initiation of the CPIG, the report given by the permitted interaction group, and then at a subsequent meeting, a decision making by the committee as a whole. And if we have that many interested members in pursuing this, like, yeah, that definitely can provide a more thorough updated report with more hands on deck, but it comes with those limitations as well. So
Charlie, personally, for my own self, the timing isn't good for me to get involved in this. I'd rather stay on top of what's going on with the general plan and what they're doing on the council level with the general plan, and because ultimately that has a big impact on us too, for better or for worse. And that's going to be pretty intense for the next few months. And I'd rather pay attention to that at this point rather than getting into another, potential project of analyzing the CDP for potential amendments right now. That's my personal feeling and as far as my own energy.
Honestly, I couldn't disagree with you because I'm overwhelmed myself too, and that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of detail in it. And that's the investigatory part. And then we've got to go back and go through the process itself, right? To get it changed.
Yeah, and Charlie, I mean, I think that how Miriam was talking about limiting it to, I mean, I don't think opening up a whole amendment process is naturally, that's definitely not what I was intimating. And I agree 100% with Nancy. I just wanted to put it out there, not necessarily the next agenda, but after the general plan, I agree about the general plan completely. And but just to keep it in mind, and maybe the members can at least be looking at the plan that way, look at the amendments that were made, and just, pick whatever, interests them. But just sometime in the next maybe 6 months or 9 months, this is a nagging, it's kind of a nagging thing. Thanks.
Yeah. Honestly, Janice, I don't know of an example. I couldn't point to an example where the shell was changed. And there's an example of where that made a difference in the outcome of any one of the projects or any one of the proposals, be their development or infrastructure. I couldn't point to one. And, having, changing the language is okay, but it's how you act on the language after it's been changed, I think. And
Well,
that would be helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that that's a good idea. I think that, Charlie, I'll try to look into that so that we have some specific examples. I just know that when we've been pursuing different things, like some campaigns against developments, our hands have been tied. I mean, I often will say that it's an ordinance, so this is important, it has to be followed, but there's parts of it that don't have to be followed. And if that's not clear, I mean, certainly the lawyers for the developers know that. And I just think there's places where we assume there's teeth and there's not. But yeah, I definitely will, that'll be on my list to check out more. And and later, when you guys aren't so overwhelmed, with the GP, when all of us aren't, definitely try to focus on that more.
Yeah.
It has come up, several times in the last, few years when I've been working on something, whereas, well, that's not really, it's not legally binding, I'm like, yeah. So, and it's definitely just weakened the points that the community was trying to make when they made the CDP. That's, the intention, it just lessens the intention, the outcome, the intentionality of the plan. So,
Right.
but thanks. I mean, whatever you guys can do, you're already doing tons. So
Yeah.
bless you for it.
Okay. All right. Are there any other suggestions? Committee members? Okay, so we can still come back around and make suggestions on the agenda, so long we do so within the time frame that's necessary to post. And so if there's any things we missed today and we want to add, again, get in touch myself or with staff, and then the chairs, generally we have a meeting sometime beforehand to nail that agenda down. So we'll close that and just go on to the announcements. So I'll just read through them. On February 18, 2025, County Council Policy Committee on Planning, Land Use, and Economic Development created an ad hoc committee to analyze the effectiveness of the CDP Action Committee structure as noted in the communication 120. So thanks
I'd like to speak
for
to
providing
that.
a copy. Yeah, go ahead.
We found out that was going to be on the agenda kind of at the last minute, that the council was setting up this ad hoc committee to analyze the effectiveness of CDPs, and nobody really knew where that came from. So I decided to go to the meeting, and I prepared testimony, and John came to the meeting as well. And one concern I had about the way they had phrased the communication is it said they were going to interview individual past CDP Action Committee members and present CDP members, you know, like one by one sort of a thing. And so I told him that I thought the CDP process was a really important process to have a body of people keeping these plans alive. But I thought that if they wanted to analyze the effectiveness of the action committees, they shouldn't do it in a case by case, one by one, you know, in a closet interview sort of a protocol, that they should come to here to this meeting to put it on our agenda and say, you know, we want to find out from you folks, you know, what you think could be improved or what you think the obstacles are, and make it a public forum. And that was my suggestion. So I presented sort of formal testimony to them when they were making that, having that discussion. They took note of my remarks. I don't know what they're going to do or when this is going to happen, but there seems to be a lot going on right now. So it's sort of interesting to me that they've taken this on at this point. I certainly have a lot of opinions on the subject, but I hope that they follow through on putting them on all the CDP agendas and agendizing it so the public can participate and have a discussion about this. Rebecca Villegas agreed to be on the committee, and she would have been the only one, she's the only one representing West Hawaii that's on this ad hoc committee. So in the final analysis, they picked, I guess, 4 of them, and she's one of them. So I thought that was good that we've got somebody from West Hawaii on the county council that's going to be sitting on this committee.
Mm-hmm. Is the council similarly organized to where, you know, they set up this ad hoc committee and has a timeline on it, and they've got a report, and what are the responsibilities then for reporting? Do we know?
I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
they're
this.
it's not the same as us with pigs.
It's somewhat similar. I don't think they have quite the timeline like requirement like the permitted interaction groups, but that's my understanding is that they will prepare a report, and then at a later council meeting they will make decision on it.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Like as far as I'm aware of, there hasn't been any movement since they voted to create the ad hoc. And so I know they have another ad hoc running right now that's focused on housing. So I'm not too sure. You know, I think everybody's just kind of waiting for Ashley's game plan to get released, and then we'll see what she has in mind. At least that's all I know from my side.
Yeah, I thought you said at the meeting it was going to be like 9 months or something like that. That's kind of the timeline we're looking at.
Okay. What's the path forward after the ad hoc committee comes to a decision?
Depends on what they suggest.
What's that?
It depends on what they suggest.
Yeah.
Well, if they're going to make any suggestions to the change in the CDP, then that's an ordinance.
Well, I think they'd probably be making changes to chapter 16 if they're going to suggest anything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that. And so I'm imagining this is kind of like a fact-finding mission, right? They're going to gather all this information from whatever corners they're gonna look at,
Mhm.
and present it. And then from there, depending what the consensus looks like. So I think that's where I'm kind of like on standby waiting to see what that means for her. Where is she going to be going out? Who is she going to be talking to? What does this, how she's going to just set up this whole framework. And then depending on how that goes, like given this great unknown of what John says is 9 months, when they present the report, then it would be definitely an opportunity for the ACs to come and provide testimony in front of council. But I'm hoping, and based what I'm understanding is that we'll have other opportunities before it gets to that point.
Right.
So
She needs sort of general references to looking at other similar bodies in other places, like she
yes,
mentioned the city and county neighborhood board process, and she mentioned something about some committee that operates, I think, in San Diego, or is it something about looking at other protocols and
right.
seeing if they seem like they would have something to contribute.
Yeah. So
Yeah, if I can, I need to digress a little bit. You had mentioned that there was someone on the call who wanted to speak about something that was not on the agenda, and we said we'd give space for when we got to the agenda items for next meeting. So I'm wondering if I can just kind of digress and go back to that, if that person's still here,
They left.
because I don't know who it was. I thought it was someone on Zoom.
I guess they left.
Oh, did they? Okay. All right. Yeah, Janice.
Just one, I mean, to reiterate a point about, we were just saying, I get about the action committees. When Ashley or whoever it is that's going, the ad hoc committee is going to be evaluating this, I mean, the action committees can only do so much. It's the people who are making the decision makers are the ones like, how are they allowing the action committees to be effective? And I still think that should be part of the equation and should be considered in any of the scoping process that they do.
Okay. So under the announcements, I'll get back to that in homeless and housing fund survey. So the Office of Housing and Community Department and SAS Services LLC would like to hear from you about issues, needs, and solutions for homelessness in your community. So there's a Survey Monkey website one can go to. I don't know if anybody's been on it.
I filled out the survey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is there any comments on this or concerns?
No, it was very general.
Yeah. Okay, so the final draft, I think you mentioned this before, has been submitted. Oh, so the final draft has been submitted by the Planning Commission, right? Did you say that was over?
The Leeward Planning Commission, I guess the Windward is still deliberating.
Ah, okay, so that's the reference to this one. All right. So there's still opportunity to give testimony before the council to the Windward side. You can
I
attend.
think
yeah, they had a meeting today. I believe they have closed public testimony already and they're deliberating through their motions. But then at the end of this meeting, the commission will decide if they need another day. And so if they do, then they'll meet again tomorrow. And then that
Okay.
will be another opportunity for public testimony at 9 a.m.
All right. Okay, and that testimony can be, if there is one tomorrow, then that testimony can be taken via Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just mentioning that for the persons who testified earlier.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a
Um,
question, Charlie, on that.
yeah,
So, and maybe Miriam's the person to ask. So after the planning commissions close their meetings, there's been the lingering question of whether at the council meetings there can be substantive changes made to the draft plan. Has that issue been resolved in any way?
I haven't got like a formal update from that, but My understanding is the current draft that exists already, even the new planning director has already made recommendations, recommended changes to that plan, like what Nancy guys were updating about earlier. So I think it's that key word, right? Substantial changes or whatnot. So I don't know to what degree Corporation Council is accepting, and I don't know if they've given final advice or guidance counsel on that. Yeah.
I had a talk with one of the council members about that because they brought it up at a council meeting a few months ago, and this one council member's, since I don't know exactly, that the one council member expressed to me that they thought that they could make substantive changes, that's how they thought it got resolved, but I haven't read that anywhere. There was just a verbal comment that was made to me.
Okay. So next in the announcements was the planning department was still seeking applications for applicants for the action committee. Any updates on that, Miriam?
No updates. Mayor office handles all recruitments and applications. So that new executive assistant is Micah Alameda. He is currently in charge of recruiting and filling all of the vacancies within our boards and commissions. I had a meeting with him in January where he let us know that, the first chunk of council was going to be full with department head appointments and nominations. And now it sounds like council agenda is turning more towards the decision-making committees are getting on the agenda for their vacancies. I think he was trying to fill some spots on Leeward Planning Commission recently. And then, so we should be soon after that. So probably going to start seeing CDP Action Committee nominations coming through within the next few weeks, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we have a lot of those. So, and council has requested that we don't like kind of bombard them with like a bunch of names all in one day. So Micah also has the opportunity, the responsibility of like kind of making sure there's only like 5 to 7 nominees per hearing. So that also kind of puts a bit of a bottleneck on this process. But he's working on it. And I know he's calling the people, talking with them, and trying to see. But I don't have numbers. I don't know how many are pending. I don't have any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just as anecdotally, it seems the Punk Commission experiences the same difficulties, I think, with getting quorum.
Yeah.
And-
So I was looking at the Punk fact sheet. It looks a lot empty, unfortunately. Yeah, and those seats are per district, right? So each member
Right.
is from a specific district. So they got right now their fact sheet says 4 openings, and they're a 9-member board, I believe, also.
Right.
So that means they need everybody to show up, or else they can't hold a meeting.
Yeah. They had to delay the meeting by about 10 minutes or so while the 5th person, arrived.
Yeah.
But they did it all in person. I don't think there was anyone on Zoom.
Were you in person for that meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding is they are only in-person meetings. So
Yeah, it was at Building G yesterday.
yeah.
Okay, are there any other announcements? All good? Okay, yeah, there's a couple of other ideas I'm throwing in my mind for the agenda items, but I'll bring those up later, after I think about them a little more. But if there's none, we can move to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second. So, okay, all in favor? indicate by saying Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who commented from the from the public. Thank you again. Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
all right, I'll see you. Hui ho.